Hello, friends. Welcome to my channel. Today, we will talk about the phenomenon of culture shock. So, let me introduce you to a situation. For example, an Arab immigrant migrates to Sweden. Over there, they have very different cultural values than here. And what happens after a few days? They feel confused, anxious, even depressed. This feeling of disorientation, psychological distress, is called culture shock. So, in today's video, we will talk about the science behind it, how to tackle it, and most importantly, how to use it to your advantage. Let's get started. Firstly, let's look at the definition of culture shock. According to the anthropologist Kalervo Oberg, who coined the term culture shock in 1960, it is a state of psychological and social confusion and anxiety resulting from a sudden transition to a different cultural environment. An individual's identity is threatened by differences in values, language, customs, and interaction patterns. As a result, you cannot function effectively in the host society. So, how does culture shock manifest itself? Oberg described 4 stages to understand it. First, the honeymoon phase, which lasts from a few days to a couple of weeks. You may feel excited and curious about the new culture, amused by its differences, and eager to explore everything. During this stage, the reward circuit in your brain, the nucleus accumbens, releases dopamine, which is why you feel euphoric. Secondly, the crisis phase, which starts when the novelty wears off and you face the reality of living in a foreign country. The symptoms include anxiety, isolation, insomnia, irritability, depression, fatigue, and homesickness. Here, 2 theories explain what happens to you. The first one is the theory of cognitive dissonance by Leon Festinger in 1957. He said that conflict arises when you hold 2 or 3 inconsistent beliefs, ideas, or values. In this case, your new cultural beliefs clash with your original identity. To reduce this cognitive dissonance, you must change either your behavior or your attitudes. For example, if your family in the home culture values spending time together every day, but in the host culture, people value excessive individualism, you must change either your behavior or your attitudes to fit in. The second theory that explains the crisis phase is the self-determination theory by Deci and Ryan in 1985. They claimed that humans have an innate drive to grow and develop. When immigrants encounter conflicts in the host culture, their internal motivation to learn and adapt declines because the new culture does not align with their values. As a result, they may experience emotional and psychological distress. The third stage is the adjustment phase, which begins when adaptive learning mechanisms kick in. According to neuroplasticity, which is the ability of the brain to change its structure and function in response to experiences, the individual reconstructs their cognitive framework to incorporate the new culture. During this phase, you start understanding the host culture better, and your thinking, feeling, and behavior gradually adapt to it. Lastly, the integration phase, also known as the acceptance phase, is when you become bicultural, as defined by Berry in 1997. You achieve this when you maintain your original cultural identity while accepting elements of the host culture. At this point, you feel comfortable and identify yourself as a citizen of the world. Now, let's see how to adapt quickly to the host culture. There are several scientific solutions to shorten the time of cultural adaptation. We will discuss 3 of them in this video. A. Psychobehavioral strategies. 1. Cognitive restructuring. It is a technique derived from cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, used to overcome negative thinking. For example, the immigrant thinks, "I can't cope," so they restructure it to, "Adapting takes time and effort." This strategy helps reduce anxiety related to culture shock. A study by S.M. Al-Shohaib and colleagues showed that immigrants who received cognitive restructuring training reported lower levels of adjustment anxiety and higher levels of well-being, compared to those who did not receive the training. How does this work? Well, negative thoughts increase stress and positive thoughts reduce it. Stress impairs your ability to adapt to a new culture, but positive emotions facilitate it. So try to replace negative thoughts with realistic ones. 2. Emotional regulation. When facing culture shock, it is common to experience intense emotions like anger, sadness, and anxiety. Emotional regulation is the ability to control these emotions. One way to do this is through mindfulness, which involves observing your emotions without judgment. This practice helps you accept and process difficult emotions, which then can be channeled into actions that promote adaptation. For example, instead of ignoring or suppressing negative feelings, mindfulness encourages you to acknowledge and experience them fully. By doing so, you prevent them from becoming overwhelming and allow yourself to learn from the situation. This approach enables you to adapt to the new environment more effectively. B. Socio-cultural strategies. 1. Implicit norms learning. It is the process of learning and understanding the unwritten rules or norms of a culture. For example, understanding personal space and body language in a new culture. Nonverbal behaviors are an important part of any culture, but they're often unspoken. That is why it is crucial to pay attention to and decode the nonverbal behaviors of others in order to understand the cultural cues they convey. According to Bandura's social learning theory in 1977, observation and imitation are the primary ways of acquiring new behaviors. Therefore, paying attention to and imitating others is a faster way to adjust to a new culture. If you notice that people in the host culture stand close while talking, you should do the same. Or, if they prefer to maintain a distance, respect that too. 2. Building a bicultural support network. Strong social connections help during culture shock. Bicultural support networks refer to building relationships with people from both the home and host cultures. People from your home culture can provide emotional support and understanding, while those from the host culture can teach you about the local customs and language. Loneliness and isolation often lead to depression and hamper the adaptation process. But a strong social network can help you overcome culture shock faster. A study by Ward, C. and colleagues in 2009 found that social support reduces depressive symptoms among immigrants experiencing culture shock. CC. Practical strategies. 1. Gradual immersion. When you move to a new country, you don't have to throw yourself into a completely new environment all at once. You can gradually expose yourself to the new culture, which will help you avoid culture shock. For example, instead of immediately moving into a neighborhood inhabited only by people from the host culture, you could initially visit multicultural settings like restaurants or events. This gradual exposure allows you to adapt to cultural differences step by step, making the transition smoother. Additionally, by starting in multicultural settings, you can interact with people from various backgrounds, including those from your home culture. This provides a sense of familiarity and comfort while also allowing you to connect with others who may be experiencing similar challenges. Gradually immersing yourself in the new culture also gives you time to learn the local language and customs, which further contributes to a smoother adaptation process. 2. Cultural competence training. Cultural competence refers to the ability to interact effectively and respectfully with people from different cultures. It involves understanding and appreciating cultural differences and adapting your behavior accordingly. One way to enhance cultural competence is through programs like Hofstede's Cultural Dimensions. These programs offer insights into how cultures differ in various aspects such as individualism versus collectivism and uncertainty avoidance. For instance, if you are moving from a collectivist culture to an individualistic one, you should be prepared for a greater emphasis on personal goals and independence in the host culture. Similarly, if you are transitioning from a culture with low uncertainty avoidance to one with high uncertainty avoidance, you need to understand the importance of rules and regulations in the new environment. By understanding these cultural dimensions and adapting your behavior accordingly, you can improve your chances of successful adaptation. Now let's talk about the factors that contribute to successful adaptation when facing culture shock. A multidisciplinary perspective reveals three categories of factors: psychological, cultural linguistic, and environmental. First, psychological factors. Research shows that some personality traits like resilience make the adaptation process easier. According to Tedeschi and Calhoun in 1999, resilience refers to an individual's ability to transform challenges or setbacks into opportunities for personal growth or learning. This is known as post-traumatic growth. For example, an immigrant who faces discrimination or prejudice may use the experience to develop a stronger sense of self-awareness and empathy towards others. Secondly, cultural linguistic factors. Being fluent in the local language improves communication and reduces feelings of alienation and isolation. A study by Pavlenko and Lantolf in 2000 found that immigrants who learned the host language had better psychological adjustment and fewer culture shock symptoms compared to those who did not. Thirdly, environmental factors. The availability of immigrant integration policies and programs plays a significant role in the adaptation process. Institutional support such as cultural adaptation centers, language classes, and job training programs can help immigrants adjust to their new environment more quickly. Moreover, the attitude and behavior of host community members can greatly influence an immigrant's experience. A welcoming and inclusive community can make the transition to a new culture smoother and reduce feelings of isolation. On the other hand, prejudice and discrimination can intensify culture shock symptoms and hinder the adaptation process. Finally, let's summarize what we have learned about culture shock. Culture shock is not a disorder, but a natural reaction to a drastic change in cultural environment. It involves a neurocultural adaptation process that reshapes your identity. Neuroadaptation refers to the brain's ability to change its structure and function in response to experiences, allowing you to integrate new cultural information and form new connections. Cultural syncretism involves blending elements from your home culture with those of the host culture, leading to the formation of a hybrid identity. Ultimately, this process results in a more resilient personality and a global mindset. Thank you for watching today's video. If you found it helpful, please don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment below. See you next time. Hello, and welcome to this new episode. This is a video that I've been wanting to make for quite a while now because it's something that I talk about in many of my videos, but I feel like it needs its own dedicated space. The question is, how do we keep our cultural identity when we move abroad or when we live in an increasingly globalized world? What if we want to preserve our culture, our values, and our traditions, but also stay open to other cultures and not be seen as stuck in our ways or narrow-minded? Because at the end of the day, we can't just lock ourselves up in a bubble of sameness. We still have to interact with other people, other cultures, and other ways of life. So how do we navigate that? How do we hold on to who we are and what we believe in without being resistant to change and without seeming closed off to other cultures? Before I answer this question, I want to say two things. 1. If you're new here, subscribe so you don't miss any new episodes. And 2. This is not going to be a one-size-fits-all answer. How we keep our cultural identity will differ from person to person, family to family, community to community. There's no single way to do it. But hopefully by discussing these points we can find some inspiration and get some ideas. Okay, so let's start with the basics. What do I mean by cultural identity? I'm talking about the beliefs, values, behaviors, and traditions that make up our culture. Our culture influences how we see the world, how we interact with others, and how we make decisions. It shapes our worldview, our values, and our way of life. So why do we want to keep our cultural identity? Why is it important? Well, our culture gives us a sense of belonging, a sense of identity, and a sense of continuity. It connects us to our past, to our ancestors, to our heritage. It gives us a sense of stability, and it helps us to understand who we are. It's also a way of honoring and respecting our ancestors and everything that they've done for us. It's a way of saying thank you for the legacy that they left us and for the foundation that they built for us to stand on. Preserving our cultural identity doesn't mean rejecting other cultures or being resistant to change. It simply means appreciating and respecting our own culture while still being open to learning from and engaging with other cultures. It's about finding a balance between preserving our cultural heritage and embracing the diversity of the world around us. So, how do we do that? How do we find that balance? Well, let me share with you some of the things that we can do as individuals, as families, and as communities. The first thing that we can do is educate ourselves and the next generation about our culture. This means teaching our children our native language, sharing stories and traditions with them, involving them in cultural events and activities. In short, it means raising culturally literate children who know and appreciate their heritage. One way to do this is through storytelling. Stories are a powerful way to transmit cultural knowledge and values. They help us to understand our history, our traditions, and our values. Stories connect us to our past and help us to see how our culture has evolved over time. By sharing stories with our children, we're helping them to develop a sense of cultural identity and belonging. We're also helping them to understand where they come from and who they are. Another way to keep our cultural identity is through celebrating our cultural events and holidays. This is a great way to immerse ourselves and our children in our culture. When we celebrate our cultural events, we're surrounded by people who share our traditions and values. We're able to experience our culture firsthand, and we're able to teach our children about our heritage in a fun and engaging way. Celebrating our cultural events also gives us a sense of community and belonging. It's a chance to connect with other people who share our culture and to build relationships with them. This is especially important for children who are growing up in a diverse and multicultural environment. By celebrating our cultural events, we're giving our children the opportunity to connect with other members of our culture and to build a sense of community. The second thing that we can do to keep our cultural identity is engage with other members of our culture, whether we're living abroad or in our home country. It's important to find ways to connect with other people who share our culture. This could involve joining cultural organizations or groups, attending cultural events, or simply staying in touch with family and friends from our homeland. By engaging with other members of our culture, we're able to learn from them, share our experiences, and build a sense of community. This is especially important if we are living in a multicultural environment where our culture is not widely understood or appreciated. By connecting with other members of our culture, we're able to maintain a sense of continuity and tradition. The third thing that we can do to keep our cultural identity is support businesses and organizations that promote and preserve our culture. This could involve supporting local businesses that sell cultural products or services, donating to organizations that support our cultural heritage, or volunteering our time to help preserve our cultural traditions. By supporting businesses and organizations that promote and preserve our culture, we're helping to ensure that our culture continues to thrive and that future generations are able to enjoy the benefits of our cultural heritage. Finally, the fourth thing that we can do to keep our cultural identity is be proud of who we are. It's important to embrace and celebrate our cultural identity rather than trying to hide it or downplay it. When we're proud of our culture, we're more likely to pass it on to future generations and help preserve it for future generations to come. We need to teach our children to be proud of their heritage and to embrace their cultural identity. This means teaching them about our history, traditions, and values, and encouraging them to participate in cultural events and activities. It also means encouraging them to learn our native language and to speak it with confidence. Keeping our cultural identity alive and thriving in a globalized world is a challenge, but it's also an important and rewarding task. By following these 4 steps, educating ourselves and the next generation, engaging with other members of our culture, celebrating our cultural events and holidays, supporting businesses and organizations that promote and preserve our culture, and finally, being proud of who we are, We can help ensure that our culture continues to thrive and that future generations are able to enjoy the benefits of our cultural heritage. In conclusion, there's no one-size-fits-all answer to the question of how to keep our cultural identity when we move abroad or in a globalized world. Every individual, every family, and every community will have to find their own way of balancing the need to preserve our culture with the need to engage with other cultures. But, hopefully, these few points can help us all to think about this issue in a different way. It's not an either-or situation. We can't keep our cultural identity, nor can we engage with other cultures. Both are possible, and both are important. The key is to find a balance between the two. A good approach is to be open-minded and respectful towards other cultures while at the same time being proud of our own culture and being willing to pass it on to future generations. Let's work together to create a world where all cultures are respected and celebrated. And let's work together to ensure that our cultural identity continues to thrive for generations to come. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video helpful or interesting, please give it a thumbs up and share it with others. And if you're new here, subscribe so you don't miss any new episodes. Wishing you a wonderful day, and until next time. Bye.
How do we use cultural differences to help us grow as people? This is a question that I've been thinking about for a long time, but I only recently was able to come up with an answer that I really like. One of the first things we have to understand is that each and every one of us has the ability to be a leader or the ability to be a follower. Some people out there might say that, hey, I don't have what it takes to be a leader. I'm not charismatic enough. I don't know how to manage people. But listen, all of us have the potential to lead people in some aspect of our life. For example, maybe you're a gamer and you have a group of friends that play Call of Duty with you. You might actually be the leader of your squad. Maybe you're really good at giving advice and helping people around you study. And therefore, even if you're not the most popular person in school, you still have the ability to lead people. So I want you to get that out of your head right now. We all have the ability to be leaders in some shape or form. And the second thing that we need to understand is that when we travel somewhere else, we are actually traveling as an individual. In other words, we don't take our nationality with us when we move to another country. We are not walking passports. We are humans. And this is something that is very important to understand, because we tend to think of ourselves as more than just individuals. We identify ourselves with different groups, and when you identify yourself with a group, you start believing in the characteristics that are associated with that group. For example, you might say, hey, I'm from the Philippines, so I must be hospitable. Or you might say, I'm from Korea, so I must be polite. Well, those characteristics are true for a lot of people from those countries, but they're not true for everybody. Just because you were born in Iran doesn't mean that you have to be a Muslim or a Shia. And just because you were born in Brazil doesn't mean that you have to speak Portuguese. Those are stereotypes. Stereotypes are generalizations about entire groups of people. And instead of thinking of ourselves as unique individuals, we start thinking of ourselves as part of a collective. So how do we deal with this issue? The answer is pretty simple, actually. Instead of looking at the world through the lens of our nationality, we should look at the world through the lens of our individuality. For example, let us say that you're an American who lives in the United States and you move to Southeast Asia. Instead of saying, hey, I'm American, say, hey, I'm from New York or I'm from Los Angeles. Because that way, you are presenting yourself as an individual rather than representing an entire nation. And when you are viewed as an individual, you will be judged based on your own merits and your own actions. You will no longer be judged based on the actions of other Americans. There is a beautiful quote by the philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein that goes like this: "The limits of my language are the limits of my world." What he means by that is that our perception of the world is largely influenced by the language we speak. If you've ever lived in a foreign country or traveled extensively, you'll know that different languages shape the way we see the world. They influence the way we think, the way we behave, and the way we interact with others. For example, in English, there are many words that describe different shades of blue, such as azure, cerulean, and cobalt. This reflects the fact that English speakers pay a lot of attention to the color blue. In contrast, in Mandarin Chinese, there aren't many words to distinguish different shades of blue. Instead, there are many words to describe different shades of white, such as pure white, ivory, and snow white. This reflects the fact that Chinese people pay a lot of attention to the color white. Our language not only shapes the way we see the world, but also the way others see us. For example, in Spanish, there is no word for please in the imperative mood. That is, you can say, clean your room without having to add please. Native Spanish speakers do want to think of this as rude because they do wanna have the word please in their language. However, if a no-native speaker of Spanish were to say clean your room, they would sound very rude because in their language, they have to say please. This shows that our language not only shapes the way we see the world, but also the way others see us. And if you don't believe me, let me give you another example. Have you ever heard of the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis? It is the idea that the language we speak influences the way we think. Let's take two different languages, English and Mandarin Chinese. And let's imagine someone who speaks both languages fluently. When they are thinking in English, they are likely to categorize objects based on their function. For example, they might think of a chair as something used for sitting. On the other hand, when they are thinking in Mandarin Chinese, they are likely to categorize objects based on their shape or appearance. For example, they might think of a chair as something with 4 legs. This is because in Mandarin Chinese, the words for chair and table are based on their shape, whereas in English, they are based on their function. As a result, someone who speaks both languages may view the world in a different way depending on which language they are thinking in. This might seem like a small difference, but it can have a big impact on how we interact with others. For example, when we are negotiating, we are more likely to focus on the points where we agree than where we disagree. This is because in many languages, such as English, we use the word agreement to refer to both the act of agreeing and the thing that we agree on. On the other hand, in Mandarin Chinese, there are separate words for the act of agreeing and the thing that we agree on. As a result, native Chinese speakers are less likely to focus on areas of agreement and more likely to focus on areas of disagreement. This can cause problems when negotiating with native Chinese speakers because they may not realize that you are trying to find common ground. Okay? So here's the main point of this whole story. The way we perceive the world is largely influenced by the language we speak. Therefore, if we want to see the world in a different way, we need to learn a different language. Now, you might be thinking, great, I'll just go and learn Mandarin Chinese. But it's not that easy. Learning a new language takes a lot of time and effort. It's not something that you can do overnight, but the good news is that you don't need to become fluent in that language. You just need to learn enough vocabulary and grammar to be able to communicate effectively in that language. For example, if you are in business, you might want to learn the language of your target market. This can help you better understand their culture and customs, which can make you more successful in business. Or let's say that you are a student. Learning a second language can help you get into a better university. Most of the top universities in the world are in English-speaking countries like the US, the UK, Canada, and Australia. And if you want to study in one of those countries, you need to learn English. Learning a new language can also help us to be more open-minded. When we learn a new language, we are exposed to a new culture and way of thinking. This can help us to challenge our own beliefs and assumptions and to become more open-minded. So I encourage you to learn a new language. It doesn't matter what language you choose to learn. The important thing is that you learn a language that is different from your native language. By doing this, you will be able to see the world in a different way and become a stronger and more resilient person. And if you want to see what it takes to become a strong person, check out these videos here.
In the intricate dance of life, our personality emerges as a compelling blend of nature and nurture. While genetics lay the foundation, our upbringing, experiences, and the environments we inhabit play a pivotal role in shaping who we are. Among these influences, the impact of culture stands out as a potent force in the development of our personalities. Culture, with its rich tapestry of traditions, values, and societal norms, acts as both a mirror and a sculptor, reflecting and molding our personalities into unique masterpieces. In this enlightening exploration, we delve into the profound connection between culture and personal development. Drawing from the depths of scientific research and real-life examples, we uncover how our personalities evolve and thrive in the vibrant mosaic of human cultures. Join us on this captivating journey as we unravel the secrets of how culture shapes our personalities and empower you with practical tips to harness this knowledge in your own life. I am your guide on this enlightening expedition, committed to empowering your personal growth and broadening your horizons. Together, we will embark on a transformative adventure, one that will leave you with a deeper understanding of yourself and the world around you. Let's start our exploration. How culture shapes our personality. A deeper look at the science. To truly appreciate how culture influences our personalities, we must first examine the science behind it. Key theories such as social cognitive theory, cross-cultural psychology, and cognitive development offer invaluable insights into this fascinating relationship. Social cognitive theory, observation, imitation, and modeling. At the core of social cognitive theory lies the belief that learning and subsequently personality development occur through observation, imitation, and modeling. This means that we learn not just by doing, but also by watching others and understanding the consequences of their actions. When exposed to diverse cultures, we have a plethora of models to observe and learn from, expanding our repertoire of behaviors, values, and beliefs. For example, growing up in a culture that values politeness and respect might lead us to develop a personality characterized by courtesy and consideration towards others. Cross-cultural psychology. Navigating diverse contexts. Cross-cultural psychology delves into how cultural contexts shape our psychological processes, including our personality development. By understanding the cultural norms, values, and beliefs of different societies, we gain insight into how our personalities adapt and evolve in diverse contexts. For instance, cultures that emphasize collectivism may foster a personality that prioritizes group harmony and cooperation, whereas individualistic cultures might nurture a personality that champions independence and self-reliance. Cognitive development, embracing diverse perspectives. Our cognitive development is significantly influenced by the perspectives and ideas presented to us. When we interact with people from different cultures, we encounter a multitude of viewpoints that challenge our existing schemas or mental frameworks, fostering cognitive flexibility. This exposure to diverse perspectives broadens our thinking, enhances critical thinking skills, and equips us with the adaptability to navigate various situations effectively. Emotional intelligence. Understanding emotions in diverse settings. Developing emotional intelligence is crucial for effective communication and strong interpersonal skills. We engage with people from different cultures. We learn to recognize, understand, and manage not only our own emotions, but also those of others. This is particularly important in diverse settings, where communication styles and emotional expressions may vary. By honing our emotional intelligence, we become more adept at handling conflicts, fostering empathy, and building meaningful relationships across cultural boundaries. Practical strategies. Leveraging diversity for personal growth. Now that we've explored the scientific underpinnings of how culture shapes our personalities, let's discuss practical strategies for leveraging diversity to enhance our personal growth. Cultivate cross-cultural exposure, travel, events, and languages. Immersing ourselves in diverse cultures can be incredibly enriching. Travel broadens our horizons, exposing us to different customs, traditions, and ways of life. Participating in events organized by cultural communities in our own cities allows us to celebrate diversity and learn from others. Additionally, learning a new language not only enhances cognitive flexibility, but also provides a window into another culture. Develop intercultural competence. Self-reflection. To leverage diversity effectively, it's essential to engage in self-reflection. By examining our own cultural biases, assumptions, and beliefs, we gain a deeper understanding of how our cultural background has shaped our perspectives. This introspection allows us to approach cultural differences with empathy and an open mind, fostering personal growth and self-awareness. Empathy and perspective-taking. Empathy and perspective-taking are fundamental to leveraging diversity. By striving to understand the viewpoints, experiences, and challenges faced by individuals from different cultural backgrounds, we cultivate compassion and appreciation for their perspectives. This practice not only broadens our understanding of the world, but also enhances our emotional intelligence and communication skills. Effective communication. Effective communication is vital when interacting with people from diverse cultures. It involves being aware of our communication style, listening actively, and adapting to different linguistic and nonverbal cues. By honing our communication skills, we can bridge cultural divides, foster mutual understanding, and build meaningful relationships. Conflict resolution. In multicultural settings, conflict resolution becomes even more nuanced. Learning to manage conflicts constructively by considering diverse perspectives, practicing compromise, and seeking common ground is essential. By developing these skills, we can navigate disagreements effectively, maintain positive relationships, and create harmonious intercultural environments. Step outside your comfort zone. Personal growth often occurs when we step outside our comfort zones. By actively seeking out opportunities to interact with individuals from different cultural backgrounds, we challenge ourselves to confront discomfort, broaden our perspectives, and expand our understanding of the world. This can lead to significant personal development and self-awareness. View differences as opportunities. Embracing cultural differences as opportunities for learning and personal growth is a powerful mindset. When we shift our perspective from viewing differences as challenges to seeing them as valuable learning experiences, we open ourselves up to new possibilities. This mindset fosters curiosity, adaptability, and a willingness to embrace change, all of which contribute to personal development. Seek feedback. Asking for feedback from individuals from diverse cultural backgrounds can be immensely beneficial for our personal growth. By seeking feedback on our communication style, behaviors, and attitudes, we gain insight into how our actions are perceived by others. This practice allows us to reflect on our biases, improve our intercultural skills, and cultivate self-awareness. Build a diverse social network. Nurturing relationships with people from different cultural backgrounds is invaluable for personal development. Building a diverse social network exposes us to a range of perspectives, experiences, and traditions, broadening our horizons and challenging our viewpoints. Engaging in collaborative activities with individuals from diverse backgrounds also promotes teamwork, adaptability, and cross-cultural understanding. Embrace cultural humility. Cultural humility involves recognizing the limitations of our own cultural understanding and embracing lifelong learning. It means acknowledging that we can never fully comprehend another culture, but always strive to comprehend it better. By approaching cultural differences with humility, we demonstrate respect, foster meaningful connections, and promote cultural sensitivity. Leveraging cultural diversity is a powerful tool for personal development. By actively seeking out cross-cultural experiences, developing intercultural competence, and embracing challenges, individuals can enhance their cognitive flexibility, emotional intelligence, and adaptability, building a stronger and more resilient personality. The key is to approach cultural diversity with openness, curiosity, and a commitment to lifelong learning. As our journey together comes to an end, I encourage you to continue exploring the vast landscape of cultural diversity and its profound impact on our lives. Embrace the richness that different cultures bring into our world and leverage it to shape a strong, adaptable, and compassionate personality. Your willingness to understand and appreciate cultural differences will undoubtedly contribute to your personal growth and enrich the tapestry of humanity as a whole. If you found this exploration insightful, I invite you to share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Your comments have the power to inspire others and foster meaningful discussions. Do you want to forget to like and share this video if you believe it will resonate with someone else's personal growth journey? And for more enlightening content on personal development, psychology, and culture, subscribe for more updates. Thank you for joining me on this enlightening adventure. May your journey of self-discovery and cultural exploration continue to flourish. Till we meet again in our next video, keep embracing the diversity of life and harnessing its power to shape your personality.